Hello and welcome to Vision Economics Academy. Today we will be covering consumer's equilibrium single commodity under marginal utility analysis. So, consumer equilibrium can be studied through, analyzed through marginal utility analysis and indifference curve analysis. So, under marginal utility analysis, we have single commodity and two commodities. So, today we will be doing single commodity. But before we go into this concept, we'll be understanding as to what law of diminishing marginal utility is. So, law of diminishing marginal utility, also known as fundamental law of satisfaction and fundamental psychological law, right? It depicts a normal psychology of a people, normal behavior of a people. Now, let's say, as you're walking on the market on a very hot day, you're feeling very thirsty, right? And suddenly you are offered a glass of orange juice at 10 rupees. So when you're feeling very thirsty and you're offered a glass of orange juice, when you have that first glass, you get so much of utility. You'll get so much of utility or satisfaction from that first glass of orange juice. Suppose you had one more glass of orange juice consecutively, then also you may get utility, but it will not be as much as the first one. The utility will diminish. And as you continue to have more and more, your utility will further diminish. It's normal. And there comes a point when you reach the point of satiety, the saturation is reached, and then if you continue to have, you might even vomit out. It's the same concept over here that law of diminishing marginal utility depicts. Okay? So, law of diminishing marginal utility states that as we consume more and more units of commodity, the utility derived from each successive units goes on decreasing. Right? Let's say we are consuming ice cream. So these are units of ice cream. This is total utility and this is marginal utility. Now when we had first ice cream, we got the utility of 20. So total utility is 20 and marginal utility is also 20. Now when they have second unit, the utility will diminish. Let's say the second unit gave only 16 utility. Okay? Then the third consecutive ice cream gave only 10 utility. Right? Then fourth gave only 4. Right? And fifth did not give any utility. So this point is the point of satiety. Right? And if you continue to have it, it will be -6. Let's say. Right? Now, total utility is nothing but the aggregation of utility derived from each commodity. So, we have already covered that in the last class. Now, we will see this diagram in which the schedule is plotted. Okay, y-axis is taken as total utility, marginal utility, and the y-axis is taken as units of commodity consumed. Okay, so y-axis is taken as marginal utility and the x-axis is taken as units of commodity consumed, right? So when we have the first ice cream, we are getting utility worth of 20 rupees, right? Then if we continue to have second ice cream, our utility might decrease up to 16 and so on and so forth. Whatever is there in the schedule is depicted in this graph. Then on the fifth unit, when the marginal utility is 0, right, marginal utility is 0, that is the point of satiety. So it is this point. This point is point of satiety or with 0 marginal utility. Okay. Then when we further have the 6th unit, the marginal utility goes on to become negative. Right? Now, what can we see from here is that marginal utility is downward sloping. It's downward sloping because of the inverse relationship that exists between the units of commodity consumed and the marginal utility derived. Okay. Now we will understand consumer equilibrium through single commodity marginal utility analysis. Okay. So as we all know what consumer equilibrium is, we have done it in the last class. So it's a maximum satisfaction that a consumer derives from the limited income, and that consumer does not want to change the present situation, right, of his current level of expenditure that he is making. He does not want to change it because he is getting maximum satisfaction out of it. So that's consumer equilibrium. So the equilibrium condition in a single commodity is when a marginal utility is equal to the price. Okay. When, suppose, let's say you bought an ice cream worth 20 rupees and you bought the utility worth 20 rupees. So that is the state when you reach the equilibrium. Right? So if we can consider for simplicity 1 utils equals to 1 rupee. Okay? So let us equate utils with rupee. Right? Now, see here, unit of X consumed, and this is the price. Let's say the price is 10, right? As they are having consecutively the same quantity, same quality, the price will remain constant. The marginal utility, it's diminishing, and this column is about the difference between mu x and px, right? So the equilibrium condition is when marginal utility of X commodity will be equal to the price of X, right? When the marginal utility and price are equal, at that time we achieve equilibrium in single commodity, right? Now, as you can see in this column, the difference at first is 10, then positive 6, then 0. Then this is the point where marginal utility of X is equals to Px. That is the reason why the difference is 0. So this is the equilibrium point, right? See here, mu of X is equal to price of X, right? So in this schedule we have understood as to when the equilibrium is derived, and through this diagram also we will understand the same concept. As you see here in this diagram, the x-axis represents marginal utility and price of X, then y-axis represents unit of commodity X, right? Then here, if you see, we have plotted the marginal utility, right? At first unit 20, second unit 60, and so on so forth. It goes on diminishing and it becomes negative, right? So we have done that. And price being constant, the line is parallel to x-axis, right? It's constant, and the point of equilibrium is E. At E we achieve equilibrium, right? At E we achieve equilibrium because at this point your marginal utility of X is equals to price of X. The condition is fulfilled, right? Then after this point, the price will be more than marginal utility. Before this point, a marginal utility will be more than the price that you are paying, right? So this point E is the equilibrium point when the consumer has maximum satisfaction. Okay, so consumer achieves equilibrium when he is consuming 3 units of commodity X. So that is when the consumer attains the equilibrium. So this is the concept about consumer equilibrium through single commodity approach. Thank you. Next class, we will look into consumer equilibrium with two commodity, marginal utility analysis, and subsequently through indifference curve approach as well. Thank you.